Ancient Crete, the Philistines, and the biblical Exodus during the Santorini Eruption about 3,600 years ago. We know that the NIBIRU cataclysm as supposed disastrous encounter between Earth and a large planetary object, either a collision or a near miss, that certain groups believe would take place, supposedly takes place every 3,600 years. Now, concerning the Philistines, Goliath was a Philistine, as we know, and his brothers, six-fingered and six-toed, according to Alan Butler and Stephen Defoe, archaeologists. They said, in fact, the very name Philistine is directly responsive to Minoan Crete, for it derives from the word Philistine, which is the same name given to a particular group of people present in the area by the emerging Hebrews, who themselves were operative in Palestine from about 1400 BC onwards. Alan Butler and Stephen Defoe tell in the book The Knights Templar Revealed, Magpie Books, London, 2006, of the massive impact upon Crete of the Santorini Eruption, the CRETE eruption. Archaeology shows the absolute devastation that followed on Crete, with huge structures literally knocked flat by the force of the initial explosion and by the tidal waves that followed it. In a very short period of time, rule of Crete passed into the hands of the Mycenaean civilization, and much of the very fertile land in the north of the island would have been rendered unusable for at least a decade, and it's considered likely that the vast exodus of people from Crete took place at this time. Now, at Mycenae, two videos before this one, the giant skeletons found in ancient Greece in Mycenae, that's the area of not far from Argos, and where King Agamemnon had his palace. They were giants. Even the heroes of the Trojan War, Achilles and Patroclus, were giants, and others as well. And the Philistines have Cretan DNA. So, in a very short period of time, rule of Crete passed to the hands of the Mycenaean civilization. Much of the very fertile land north of the island would have been rendered unusable. North Island of Crete. It's the island between the Aegean Sea and North Africa, as we know. So Santorini is just north of Crete, so of course the tidal wave would have rendered the northern coast of the island unfertile, because the salt water would, and of course the ash and whatever else came, would have rendered it unusable, at least for a decade. Now, it may or may not be a coincidence that this period matches very neatly the sudden cessation of megalithic buildings further west. It's a fact that weather patterns changed markedly around the time of the Santorini eruption, together with a suspected plague or series of plagues that probably decimated populations across the whole body of Europe. And we have, of course, the 10 plagues of Egypt. So the forced migration of a large the proportion of the Cretan people, the Minoan people, does seem to have affected many areas surrounding Crete. So they just took their boats and fled to the Levant, Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Palestine, not least of all the Palestine coast of the Levant. And in fact, the very name Palestine is directly responsive to Minoan Crete, for it derives from the word Philistine, which is the name given to a particular group of people present in the area by the emerging Hebrews, who themselves were operative in Palestine from around 1400 BC onwards. It's clear that the Hebrews knew the Philistines to be of Cretan origin. It's even written so in the Bible. and doubtless they represented the remnant of the Minoan civilization of Crete that had fled from Crete, either as a result of the Santorini eruption or ahead of the invading Mycenaeans. In the Old Testament, we find in the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 7. And this is what the passage writes: "Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? Said the Lord. Have not I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor," that's Crete, "and the Syrians from Kir?" And on page 25 of their book, the authors note the effect of the Minoans, that's the Cretans, in their alter ego as the Philistines upon the area of the Levant, that's Lebanon, Syria, Israel, was probably quite significant in the years immediately after the Santorini eruption. Now, one thought on Crete and the Philistines of the biblical Exodus. Reverend Peter Niblock writes, "The exodus of slaves from Egypt under Moses were likely saved by the tsunami brought on by the Thera Santorini explosion as they made their way along the northern coast of Suez. This is to be followed by the later outward-bound flood from Santorini of that tsunami that overwhelmed the Egyptian army, who were in their later pursuit of the Moses-led people that were drawn from the tribe of Levi, one of the later tribes of Israel of that name." And as we know again, the Nibiru legend, that every 3,600 years it starts coming around us. And here we are now. This took place about the Santorini eruption took place about 1,600 years ago. And here we are, that's 600 years ago. So please leave your comments about this, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.